Okay, GM, ETH Denver. So my name is Edward Fricker. This is Alan Scott, and this is Kai Mesquita. And we are three of the contributors to the Railgun project. Railgun project is a privacy system for public ledger chains. And our app is a D app called Railgun, a smart contract system for private DEX trading, private transactions, and private balances that does not require use of a layer 2 or bridge. Now, I will give some brief context. Then Kai will talk about the ZK snarks and the technology that was needed to put this D app together. And Alan will talk about the practical applications and why people are using this kind of privacy technology. And also how builders like you can adapt this technology to make your applications private as well, so people who use your D apps can enjoy the same privacy that we do. So to start off, privacy is important. Privacy is something that all humans instinctually value. Even those who seek to remove our privacy want it for themselves. Information about you is used to pretend to be you. Your own information is used to access your accounts, and if the people have access to that same information, they can also access your accounts. So privacy isn't just about information and things you want to hide. It is access to the things that you find valuable and the things that you desire. Furthermore, professionals need privacy. I'm a lawyer. I am legally required to keep the interactions between me and my clients confidential. Even the act of visiting the lawyer has to remain confidential because people do not want suspicion thrown upon them simply because they're seeking legal advice. That is the same for psychiatrists. Even the amount that you pay a psychiatrist needs to be private because just from that information alone, a lot can be assumed about your private life, which you might not feel is appropriate to share with the public and the outside world. You can see that privacy is not just a luxury that people can enjoy, it's required for many professionals. No one questions why government officials might ask to make their documents confidential or classified. For example, payrolls. If you had access to the payrolls of undercover agents in a law enforcement agency, then you would also know where they shop and where they happen to be at any particular time of the day. I don't think it would bode well for their career. So why is this relevant? Blockchains are fully public. All of your embarrassing mistakes and all of your behaviors are not just recorded live, they're immutable until the end of time. So you can't erase them 20 years in the future if you happen to want to hide some of the degen trades you've made. It's actually easy now to assign your real identity to your wallet address. Many applications collect all kinds of metadata about you, and the data analytics service are very successful at attaching users to their wallet address. So people like to use privacy applications and privacy solutions. You can use a decentralized exchange with a D app like Railgun to stay private when you're trading. Now, I'll introduce Kai, who's going to talk about some of the technology that's used for achieving this kind of privacy when you're interacting with smart contracts.
Yeah. Well, so I think people here, some of the room might be familiar with zero-knowledge proofs and associated cryptography. They do provide a pretty strong level of privacy, but they're usually pretty expensive to use computationally. And in a constrained environment like Ethereum, that can be a bit of a problem. And then, of course, on the user side, there's an issue. We've got a mic here. On the user side, of course, you want to be able to use it on mobile devices and not require your users to have a supercomputer in order to generate a transaction. So on Ethereum, we can be smart about the cryptographic primitives that we use in order to make things more efficient. So we've got EIP 196 and 197, which adds the relevant precompiles in order to do verification of GROT16 proofs fairly succinctly. So GROT16 is a ZK snark proving system that is unmatched when it comes to verification efficiency, but it's pretty expensive to prove. So in order to keep the efficiency on the proving side within the realm of being able to run it on, say, a mobile wallet, we need to be smart about what crypto primitives we choose in our protocol. So you can choose say for example, for hashing systems, rather than traditional SHA-256, we can use MIMC or Poseidon, which is very snark-friendly. So Railgun uses Poseidon and GROT16, specifically because they kind of fit the trade-offs that we're looking for on Ethereum. And it uses them to create a private smart contract wallet. So you can deposit into a privacy pool, transact internally, privately, using a similar construction to Zcash. So that's using a UTXO Mercer Tree to keep track of balances, nullifiers to prevent double spends, and then snark proof to actually do the updating. And that provides a pretty strong level of privacy. But we can also extend that to add in the ability to encode arbitrary smart contract calls into the snark transaction. So now you've got a private balance, which you can transact internally. You can use that private balance through arbitrary smart contract calls to interact with DeFi. So that gives you a strong level of privacy. And you can interact with DeFi through a mobile wallet. That should explain the basics of the technical side. If people want to dive deeper into anything, we can take questions at the end. But now I'd like to introduce Alan to talk about the developer experience and applications of Railgun.
Yeah, does this mic work? You guys can hear me, right? Cool, sick. Yeah, so the practical applications of all of this tech that he was just talking about, there's three fundamental places that you could use this. First and foremost, of course, is alpha protection. There's a lot of companies out there like Nansen, Chainalysis that are collecting, collating, and then selling all of your alpha. And the shelf life of this alpha in traditional finance will be a lot further than it would be in somewhere in DeFi where you have a public ledger of that you can actually walk backwards and then study, right? So I'm sure everybody here takes and follows things like whale alerts, right? You can just take and walk backwards of people who are growing their balances really rapidly and steal their alpha that they've worked really hard to develop. You can take and avoid negative publicity. Some of you guys here work on DeFi teams that have tokens, and you have practical reasons that you have to actually take and sell those tokens. If you have a team wallet, maybe you want to give those to some developers. You want to pay out bug bounties. Maybe you want to actually pay out an auditor in tokens. Some of these people take those, right? And there's a lot of negative connotations in the marketplace that perhaps come from that, and you can actually do that with a private balance and avoid those. And then, the most important thing, perhaps to me, is anti-surveillance. There's probably a good reason why there's a lot of anons on crypto Twitter, right? Because they don't want to actually take and coincide their DeFi habits with, their financial information, right? And you can use a private balance like Railgun to take and avoid that. So if you're like, I don't know, Mark Cuban trying to get into Olympus and getting a lot of critics about that, you can avoid it. In terms of the SDK, there's three fundamental ways you can interact with the smart contract. First and foremost is Railgun Connect. This will probably be really easy for anyone here to implement. It's just like you would take and connect your MetaMask. You can actually set that up to connect to a private balance and use your private balance in Railgun. We actually have a very interesting part of the SDK that will allow wallet providers to develop an incognito mode. So you can think of this like the Control-Shift-In of your MetaMask. So there's some things that you might want to do private. Maybe you want to test out a new alpha and you're not sure if it'll work out well, so you can do that with a private balance. And then, of course, like Kai mentioned earlier, there's arbitrary smart contract calls. So you can think of, just like you could do with a public balance, you can take and do arbitrary smart contract calls to Railgun to do staking, farming, swaps, whatever you can possibly think of. Maybe you're competing in the curve wars, trying to bribe as much as humanly possible. You can do that in a private fashion. Yeah, that's kind of the soup to nuts there. We wanted to keep the presentation part kind of short in order to try to open it up for some questions, comments,
Yeah.
concerns.
I just wanted to add, you can go to one of the two websites, railgun.org or railgun.ch, and create your private Railgun address there. Try it out, see how it goes, and use it to read more about the project if you like. And yeah, if you have any questions, then.
Could this be extended to collusion prevention? Because I'm thinking about the Gitcoin grants around this session that had the ZK cream, voting for government using zero-knowledge proofs to prevent collusion among actors in a governance system.
I assume you're talking about. Okay, cool. I assume you're talking about the zero-knowledge voting systems that are out, which allow you to change votes after the fact without letting people know what you voted. Railgun's a purely transaction system, so you can use ZK snarks to develop a voting system and then maybe vote with a private balance in Railgun. But I don't think, we're not a governance platform, so that's a problem for a different project to tackle. Yeah, so they can be any mainnet application. Essentially, you encode the ABI information into a particular field in the snark, and the Railgun contract ensures that when the snark or the Mercer Tree update's executed, the call that goes out to the external contract with your ABI data also has to be executed and returned successfully before the balance update's committed. Yeah, so there are a couple of ETH miners that provide hidden transactions. They're private until they're mined, right? So you can do a transaction, and the idea behind that is mostly to prevent front running. So if you get a front running bot that sees a transaction in the mempool that's buying a large amount of some low liquidity coin, you're obviously going to get hit pretty hard by sandwiching. So the idea behind the private RPCs is to you don't reveal your transaction in the mempool until that's actually included in the block. But once it's included in the block, you have the same privacy properties as anything else, right? So you can still go to Etherscan and see all your transaction data. So Railgun transactions hide the transaction data even after it's been included in the block.
Can we talk about the audit, Sally?
So you're referring to an audit of the smart contract system?
Yeah, if you had to bring in a third party to audit for some type of validity or give you some strength.
Yeah, so we've actually pretty intensely audited the smart contract system here. So we've completed audits with ABDK, Zokyo, Hacken, and we're actually in audit now with Trail of Bits. I think we'll get to remediation or whatever at the end of the month. And we chose ABDK because they're subject matter experts on the Poseidon hash. They did a lot of the research for this stuff. So I'm not sure if that really answers your question, but yeah, we had to do a lot of rigorous testing to ensure that one, it's not only funds are SAFU, but also that it's private, right? So there's a whole different level of it, right? So the caliber for security has to be pretty high because in a privacy system, right, if there is an issue, you don't really know where it is because it's private, right?
You have to be right from the go.
So, I mean, we're constantly auditing the code, right? So ABDK has been digging into the code since, June?
Yeah, and then some of them had, a 9-month waiting list, so yeah, we had to wait, yeah. But
Hey, you guys
Yeah, so this is more about like taking and not revealing who you are as an actor. So we can kind of like extrapolate this out to like Constitution DAO, right? One of the main reasons why those people lost that auction is because they knew exactly how much they had to bid with, right? So this is more about obfuscation of like the actor, not necessarily like hiding the exact bribe amount, because you'll actually see that bribe amount come out of the Railgun smart contract, right? It's just like a big pool of black hole, like a dark pool of liquidity that's staking and doing the bribing, not necessarily you exactly, if you don't want people to know that you're the one that's doing the bribing.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the people taking the bribe should be able to see what they're getting before they make a move, I guess is where I'm...
Yeah, no, you'll see that, right? So you see it, right? But it's all about, in this particular circumstance, right, obfuscating that you're the one that's doing the bribing, right? So it won't be coming from your wallet, but instead from the Railgun dark pool.
Yeah, people will only see that a Railgun user is sending transactions. They won't be able to see anything else other than that. But once it's sent, then if it comes out of the Railgun system, then it's back in the Ethereum public ledger, yeah.
So if I understand correctly, you take private transactions and you sort of accumulate them into a Merkle tree, like on-chain in the Railgun smart contract, and then at some point all of these transactions get executed. How long between like entering the Merkle tree and the execution? So the Merkle tree is just purely keeping track of balances. We don't do any accumulation on transaction execution. So the idea behind a Merkle tree is like if you've got the transaction system's UTXO based, and if you have a particular TXO in a Merkle tree, you can use a snark to essentially prove that your the UTXO that you're spending is contained within the Merkle tree without revealing, which actual leaf in the Merkle tree it is. So that provides the privacy layer there, and then you've got the nullifier, which is a hash of the user's private key plus the fields of the UTXO. So it's not tieable to the UTXO itself, but it's also deterministically like linked. So you can prevent like double spending that way. So in terms of like actual execution speed, it's just a pure Railgun, a pure Ethereum transaction. So as soon as you can get an ETH transaction to block, your Railgun transactions executed. Can you analyze the difference in state between the smart contracts? You call it the terminal constant transaction list?
So you can see the fact that the Merkle tree is updated, but because none of the actual contents of the leaves are revealed on chain, it's just proof of existence that's revealed. You prove something exists, a transaction took place, but you don't reveal the contents of the transaction on chain.
Maybe someone near the back or some. Okay, yeah. Sure.
Thank you very much. So I've been trying for a while. So first question is, if a user wants to deposit balance into a private contract and do a smart contract call to use that balance, that smart contract is the ERC20 token contract, and that which your contract has never done before. So the user can do this by themselves without you modifying your debt or someone deploy a contract, right?
Okay, so the question was, can Railgun support any ERC20 without prior approval?
Without configuration, just from the user side.
Yes. Any ERC20 works in Railgun, but you should probably not use rebase tokens because they might not work. Yeah.
Okay, and the related thing is, if I'm the only person that using that ERC20 contract, there's no privacy because people can observe the income and output, right?
Yeah, so in that situation, if you are the only person using like Elon Doge Shiba Mark III, and that's like some token that only you have, then true, your anonymity would be quite poor, but once it's in Railgun, no one would know what you're doing with it. Let's say you sent 1 million Elon Shiba to this person and 2 million Elon Shiba to that person within Railgun. No one knows how much you're sending to anyone else. Of course, it would be obvious that you're the only person using Elon Shiba in there because you're the only depositor. So your anonymity would be quite low in that situation, but your privacy of the transactions that you do within Railgun would still hide the amount. And also no one would know that you're making transactions of that particular token inside Railgun, right?
Do you have any concerns about federal regulation and the future of anonymous transactions?
So yeah, a lot of people want to know more about, you know, what are the laws around these kind of things. At the moment, you know, it's not particularly clear, but there has not been any problem for Zcash, which is a very effective private transaction tool. And you know, even Railgun is not as private as, you know, giving someone an envelope with cash in it. So you know, most people have blinds at home. They like to draw the curtains when they're not home or when, you know, it's late at night. People do acknowledge that privacy is a human right. So, you know, there's always a line that's drawn. And like I said, even the government wants privacy solutions. So, you know, I personally, you know, this is not legal advice, but I personally believe that there will not be a problem with having useful privacy solutions because people professionally need them. Not just hedge funds, not just, you know, big whale traders, but, you know, normal people and government officials do need privacy solutions for their financial transactions. So, you know, Railgun is a permissionless tool. It's completely decentralized. There's no Railgun company. It's an open source project that, you know, hopefully some of you guys will also contribute to. So yeah, you know, at the moment it seems like everything's good, and because people really need this kind of solution.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, cool. Okay.